Hello everyone! Today I'm here to share with you and show you every single book that I read in 2017. So, I read a lot of books in 2017, probably the most I've ever read in any year. I have been on BookTube. I don't know how it happened. Don't ask me how. Literally no clue. Either way, I read 103 books. Today's video is really just going to show you exactly what books I read and what I rated them. I'm not going to go into what I thought about them. I'm going to show you to them in the order I've read them. So I'm going to start from January and then I'm going to end obviously in December, and I'm going to tell you what I rated them. So that's what this whole video is. I just think it's interesting because it'll showcase all of the books I've read. You can see exactly what I thought of them in a very clear and concise way. 30 to 40 of these books I don't have anymore. Either I got them from the library, I borrowed them from a friend, or they are being lent out to a friend, or I have either like given them to a friend or gifted to the library. There's a good chunk of them that I'll put the picture up instead of actually showing you the physical book, so just so you're forewarned. So here we go. I'm going to show you all 103 books I read and what month I read them in and what I rated them, and yeah, let's do this. Hopefully it won't be too long. We shall see. So starting off in January of 2017, in January I read 8 books that month. The first book that I read this year is Tell Me 3 Things by Julie Buxbaum, which I gave a 3 out of 5. I read A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness, which I gave a 5 out of 5. Then I read the entire Young Elites trilogy by Marie Lu, which comprises of the Young Elites, which I gave a 3 out of 5. Rose Society, which I gave a 4.5 out of 5. And The Midnight Star, which I gave a 4 out of 5 too. And the last book I read in January was Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo, which I gave a 4.5 out of 5 too. Moving into February, I read 6 books. The first book I read in February was My Not So Perfect Life by Sophie Kinsella, which I gave a 5 out of 5. Winnie by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman, which I also gave a 5 out of 5 too. By Your Side by Casey West, which I gave a 3.5 out of 5. The Edge of Everything by Jeff Giles, which I gave a 3 out of 5 too. The Hating Game by Sally Thorne, which I also gave a 5 out of 5. February was a really good reading month for me apparently. And the last book I read in February was Gemina, which I gave a 4 out of 5 too. Moving into March, I read 7 books. The first book I read in March was Caraval by Stephanie Garber. I gave this a 3.75, 4, whatever you want to round it up to. Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, which I also gave a 4 to. City Baker's Guide to Country Living by Louise Miller, which I gave a 2.5 out of 5 to. Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab, which I gave a 5 out of 5 to. Icarella by Ashley Poston, which I gave a 4.5 out of 5 to. Fire and Stars by Aldred Coldhurst, which I gave a 3.5 out of 5. Lastly, 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher, which I gave a 3 out of 5. Moving into April, I read 8 books. First book in April being When Dibble Met Rishi by Sanan Menon, which I gave a 4 out of 5 to. Alex Approximately by Jen Bennett, which I gave a 4.5 out of 5. Then I completed the Darker Shade of Magic trilogy, reading A Gathering of Shadows, which I gave a 4 out of 5 to. And A Conjuring of Light, all by V.E. Schwab, I should mention, which I gave a 4.75, close to 5 out of 5. And I also read a ton of books that I don't own, so I'll show you the picture of. The first one of that being is Size by Neil Schusterman, which I gave a 4 out of 5 to. Side of Home by Renee Watson, which I gave a 3 out of 5. All Happies by Rachel Kahn, which I gave a 2 out of 5. And The One Memory of Flora Banks by Emily Barr, which I gave a 3 out of 5. In May, I read 7 books, the first one being A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas, which I gave a 4 out of 5 to. Into the Water by Paula Hawkins, which I gave a 3.5 out of 5. Always and Forever Laura Jean by Jenny Han, which I gave a 4 out of 5. The Names They Gave Us by Emery Lord, gave a 4.75, probably close to 5 out of 5. Till It Fades by K.A. Tucker, which I gave a 2.5 out of 5. Flame in the Mist by Renee Adier, which I gave a 4 out of 5 to. And lastly, the last book I read in May was Lord of Shadows by Cassandra Clare, which I gave a 5 out of 5 to. Moving into June, I read 10 books. The first one being Words in Deep Blue by Cass Crowley, which I gave a 3 out of 5 to. Once and For All by Sarah Dessen, which I gave a 3.5 out of 5. Replica by Lauren Oliver, which I gave a 4 out of 5. The Upside of Unrequited by Becky Albertalli, which I gave a 4.5 out of 5. The Good Girl by Mary Kabika, which I gave a 3.5 out of 5. In Fall by Jennifer E. Smith, which I gave a 4 out of 5. Our Dark Duet by Victoria Schwab, which I gave a 5 out of 5 to. Dating You, Hating You by Christina Lauren, which I gave a 3.5 out of 5. For the One That I Want by Giovanna Fletcher, which I gave 3 stars. Fireworks by Katie Cadugno, which I gave 2 stars. And The Sandcastle Empire by Kayla Olson, which I gave a 2 out of 5 to. Moving on to the biggest reading month I had all year, which was in July. I read 16 books in July, in huge part due to the BookTubeathon. So the first book I read in July was Roar by Cora Carmick, which I gave a 5 out of 5 to. Song of the Current by Sarah Toskler, which I gave a 3 out of 5. Up for Air by Miranda Keelany, which I gave a 4 out of 5. Want by Cindy Pon, also a 4 out of 5. Don't You Cry by Mary Kabika, also a 4 out of 5. What to Say Next by Julie Buxbaum, which I gave a 3.5 out of 5 to. Changes in Latitude by Jen Malone, which I gave a 2 out of 5. The Lion Game by Ruth Ware, which I also gave a 2 out of 5 to. The Lovely Reckless by Cami Garcia, which I gave a 3 out of 5. On the Fence by Casey West, which I gave a 3.5 out of 5. Final Girls by Riley Sager, which I gave a 4.5 out of 5. Lucky in Love by Casey West, which I gave a 4 out of 5. As You Love to Hate Me, this is a short story collection full of a whole bunch of authors, and I gave this a 3.5 out of 5. Sounds Like Me by Sarah Bareilles, which I gave a 4 out of 5 to. Nimona by Noelle Stevenson, which I gave a 5 out of 5. And lastly, Close Enough to Touch by Colleen Oakley, which I gave a 4.5 out of 5. Britt Marie Was Here by Frederick Bachman, which I gave a 3 out of 5 stars to. Everything All at Once by Katrina Leno, I gave this a 3 out of 5 as well. Relish by Lucy Kensley, which I gave a 4 out of 5 to. Read Something New by Lucy Kensley as well, which I gave a 3 out of 5 to. Swan Summer by Mariko Tamaki, which I gave a 2 out of 5. And lastly, I read Summer Unscripted by Jen Klein, which I gave a 2.5 out of 5. Moving into September, I read 8 books, the first one being Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng, which I gave a 4.5 out of 5. Feral Youth, again, another short story collection by a myriad of authors, I gave this a 4 out of 5. Hour of Dawn by Sarah J. Maas, I gave this a 4.5 out of 5. Stranger in the House by Shara de la Pena, I gave that 3 out of 5. Warcross by Maria Liu, a 5 out of 5. One Dark Throne by Kadara Blake, another 5 out of 5. It's Made of Snow and Glass by Melissa Barchaldos, which I gave a 2.5 out of 5. And lastly, the last book I read in September was Invictus by Ryan Greydon, again a 5 out of 5. In October, I read 8 books, and bear with me because 7 of them I got from the library, so we'll be having pictures for you. The first one is The Evolution of Mara Dyer by Michelle Hawkins, which I gave a 4 out of 5. I read The Retribution of Mara Dyer by Michelle Hawkins again, and I gave that a 3 out of 5. I read Lies She Told by Kate Houlihan, which I gave a 3 out of 5 to. He Will Be My Ruin by Kay Tucker, again a 3 out of 5. The Rules of Magic by Alice Hoffman, which I gave a 3.5 out of 5. Coraline by Neil Gaiman, which I gave a 2.5 out of 5. I read the illustrated version, just in case you guys are wondering. Through the Woods by Emily Carroll, which I gave a 4 out of 5 too. And lastly, the only book I have to show you that I read in October is There's Someone Inside Your House by Stephanie Perkins, which I gave a 3.5 out of 5. In November, I also read 8 books, the first one being London Belongs to Me by Jacqueline Middleton, which I gave a 3.5 out of 5. And I read London Can You Wait, also by Jacqueline Middleton, which I gave a 4 out of 5 to. All the Crooked Saints by Maggie Stiefvater, which I gave a 2 out of 5 to. Out of Love by Katie Codugno, which I gave a 4 out of 5. And Oliver by Robin Benway, which I gave a 4 out of 5. 99 Days, also by Katie Codugno, which I gave a 3 out of 5 to. Last Magician by Lisa Maxwell, which I gave a 4.5 out of 5. And lastly, Renegades by Marissa Meyer, which I gave a 4.75 out of 5. Let's just say 5 out of 5. And lastly, in December, the last month of the whole year, I read 8 books as well. The first book I read was Top 10 by Katie Codugno, which I gave a 2 out of 5 to. The Language of Thorns by Lee Bardugo, which I gave a 4.5 out of 5. English Hearts by Emma Mills, which I gave a 4 out of 5 to. The Afterlife of Holly Chase by Cynthia Ham, which I gave a 4.5 out of 5 as well. A New Crush Gave to Me by Shauna Petroff, which I gave a 3 out of 5 to. Love, Life, and the List by Casey West, I gave a 4.5 out of 5 to. Far From the Tree by Robin Benway, which I gave a 5 out of 5 to. The last book I read for 2017, The 12 Dares of Krista by Marissa Birch, which I gave a 3 out of 5 to. So there you have it. There are all 103 books that I read in 2017. So 2017 was a great year for reading. Overall, I felt like I read some really amazing books and I read some not so amazing books. So either way, I'm very, very happy with my reading year. I just thought I would film this video to show you exactly what I read and what I rated them, so we all just know, and it's fun to know ratings and what you read and things like that. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and my favorite books of 2017 video will be coming very, very soon. The list is very, very hard to comprise. Also with that is coming my least favorite books, a reading survey, a whole plethora of 2017 videos as a whole, and I can't wait to share them with you. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye.